freedom wasn't just handed to us. Our ancestors had to fight and sacrifice their lives for our freedom. History tells us African Americans weren't free. African Americans were brought to America as slaves. Our freedom was taken from us when we were bought by Caucasian slave masters. During slavery, there was a very brave woman named Harriet Tubman. She risked her own life to help other slaves be free. She would take them down to a trail they called the Underground Railroad to keep the slaves safe as they ran to freedom. Almost each and every day, she would take slaves through the Underground Railroad to freedom. As African Americans, in order to be considered free, you had to live or be in Canada, Ohio, or another free state. Even if you were considered free, you weren't actually free. There was still what they called segregation. Segregation is a racial separation of African Americans and Europeans. African Americans weren't allowed to use the same restroom or go to the same theater as the Caucasian men and women. African Americans couldn't even go to the same school as the Europeans. Some Europeans tried to prevent African Americans from getting their education. When African Americans would go to school, the Europeans would hit them, curse, and even spit on them just to put them down. Ever heard of Little Rock Nine? They were 9 African American high school students who went through torture, such as being kicked, slapped, punched, and called names as they were going and coming from school. They weren't even allowed to use the front door of the school. They had to be snuck in through the back. African Americans also weren't allowed to ride in the same bus section as the Europeans. African Americans had to sit in the back of the bus while the Europeans got to sit in the front. Until one day, a woman named Rosa Parks was having a long day and decided she wanted to sit in the front of the bus. All of the seats in the front of the bus were taken when a Caucasian man came on the bus. He told Rosa to get up, but she didn't listen. She stood her ground and had her head up high. When she wouldn't get up, the bus driver decided to step in. He called the cops because she wouldn't get out of the seat. Rosa Parks went to jail trying to be a free black woman and sit where she wanted to. Thanks to Rosa Parks, other African Americans started to stand up for their rights and their freedom. That's how the Montgomery boycott began. There was a man named Martin Luther King Jr. He led the Montgomery boycott. He protested against segregation, and he did it by not using violence. He thought violence wouldn't help change anything, so he and others protested peacefully through the streets. Martin Luther King had one dream, and that was that one day, little black boys and little black girls would be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as brother and sister. There are many examples of African Americans working to achieve equality for their race with all races. My story mentions abuse from Europeans, but not all Europeans demonstrated acts of cruelty and disrespect to African Americans. Unfortunately, there are still acts of discrimination taking place today, but hopefully things will change with continued efforts from all races.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they are not judged by the color of the skin, but the content of their character. And I think that's for everybody. And I think that is equality. That is justice.
So I think equality and freedom go hand in hand, but I don't think everyone has equal opportunity to the same freedoms in the United States.
Equal means to have the same quantity, measure, or value as another. Being the same or identical to in value, having the same privileges, status, or rights. Same is being the very one identical, similar in kind, quality, and quantity, or to some type of degree, conforming in every detail.
There's definitely a distinction between equality economically across the board in the United States.
Equality, my definition would be that where everyone has the same rights, has the same opportunities that they can try to take advantage of. Doesn't mean everyone's going to get those because you do have to work for them, but everyone has the same opportunities to try to reach their potential or their goals.
discrimination. I mean, that gets thrown around a lot, and it's been thrown a lot in history too. I mean, the idea of acting against a group of people simply because of a characteristic of that group, prejudicing themselves against a group. I got a problem with that. But I mean, if you also think about it, I look at discrimination as something that's willful, something that people choose to do.
There's some people that aren't sure how to reach their potential and they feel like they're not getting enough support, but I do think everyone can reach equality if they really put forth a lot of effort. However, I think inequality today is much, much less than it has been even 50 years ago.
I believe that people treat other people equally and well. Do you want to be equal, or do you want to be the same?
If people change colors like the leaves in the fall, would the world still be so black and white? Would it see me as a person, or would it still see me as a person of color? Would it enslave the evergreen because it never changes color? Would some colors still be considered better than others? Would you continue to stereotype because of shapes or sizes? Would there be a sign reading orange on this side, yellow over there, and purple not allowed at all? Would it be fair to say prejudice and racism might still exist? Would it be fair to keep saying that as long as we keep seeing color, we will not see the true beauty of each other at all, even if people could change colors like the leaves in the fall?